Hello, this is the trade site Forex Market Preview and International Economic Data Roadmap for the week beginning Sunday, the 30th of November, 2014, and ending Friday, December 5th. Hope you had a good trading week. Here's a look at the dollar index daily chart, which came very close to closing new highs on Friday for the year, having broken out back in August. Made a pretty decent run at this point in time. Let's look at some of the daily charts, then we'll look at the intraday action, then we'll look at the economic data coming out this week. Get ourselves a map for what we're looking for. Here's the euro dollar. Been hanging in the same place for the last month. Not very exciting. Here's the pound closing at new lows on Friday. Here's the Aussie also closing at new lows with a 13 buy signal a few weeks back, still above the risk level there. Here's the New Zealand dollar. Has been nothing in the last 2 months on that pair. Here's a look at the pound yen. Now this is something that could easily get us a 12 and 13 sell signal without much effort, but it hasn't done it yet. So we'll continue to watch that. Let's take a look now at the 30-minute bars for the last week on the euro dollar. Here's a look at what we did for the week. So we gapped down a little bit on Sunday's open, as you can see from the prior Friday's close. Headed up, filled that immediately. Sideways action on Monday, sideways action on Tuesday. Overall, the range for the entire week was not even, well, it's barely 150 pips on the euro dollar, so that's pretty poor. Here's a look at the pound dollar, obviously also fairly poor, but a little more action than what we saw in the euro dollar. It's about 210 pips from high to low here, and we did get better action on the downside, of course, over the Thanksgiving holiday. Keep in mind, we only had calls 3 days last week due to that Thanksgiving holiday, so there isn't a lot else to say. What do we have coming out this week? Well, let's take a look. So it's Sunday now. We have some data that's already come out from Australia and New Zealand. We've got the capital spending number from Japan, company operating profits from Australia, manufacturing PMI out of China, and then Australian commodity prices. That's already come out now. This is a little later than we usually record this, so we're heading into the week at this point from the long holiday weekend here in the U.S. We've got Spanish manufacturing PMI coming out at 3:15 a.m. Eastern Time. Switzerland's SVME PMI, Italian manufacturing PMI, European manufacturing PMI, the UK's same number. Net lending to individuals out of the UK, along with mortgage approvals. In the morning, the US has final manufacturing PMI. We've got members of the Fed speaking. We've got Japan's monetary base tomorrow night. We've got Australia's building approvals and current account, average cash earnings out of Japan, rate announcement out of the Bank of Australia tomorrow night. 10-year bond auction out of Japan at 10:45 p.m. Eastern Time Monday night. Now we head into Tuesday. Spanish unemployment change, construction PMI out of the UK, PPI out of Europe. Got another Fed member speaking. Then Fed Chair Yellen speaks. New Zealand's got a minor number. We've got construction spending in the morning here in the U.S. and then total vehicle sales in the afternoon. Another Fed member speaks. We've got the AIG Services Index out of Australia, GDP out of Australia, non-manufacturing PMI out of China, HSBC Services PMI out of China. We've got GDP out of Switzerland at Wednesday at 1:45 a.m. Eastern Time. Spanish Services PMI, Italian Services PMI, Final Services PMI out of Europe. That's all on Wednesday. Then the same number out of UK. Retail sales out of Europe. We've got U.S. ADP non-farm employment change Wednesday morning. Revised non-farm productivity and unit labor costs here in the U.S. Final Services PMI. Bank of Canada has a rate announcement at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday. We've got ISM non-manufacturing PMI here out of the U.S. Crude oil inventories. We've got a speech from Fed member Plosser and then Brainerd. So again, more. There's about 6 this week Fed members speaking. Bayes book here in the U.S. at 2 p.m. Eastern Time in the afternoon on Wednesday. Got retail sales and trade balance out of Australia that night. Going into Thursday, we've got the Spanish and French 10-year bond auctions. We've got a rate announcement out of the Bank of England, then another one out of the European Bank, the ECB, and then their press conference. We've got unemployment claims. That's the weekly number out of the U.S. Another Fed member speaking. The IV PMI comes out at 10 a.m. out of Canada. Natty gas here in the U.S. Another Fed member speaks. That's 8 this week. AIG construction index out of Australia. Leading indicators out of Japan. German factory orders. Swiss foreign currency reserves. The UK has consumer inflation expectations. Europe has revised GDP, and then Canada's got their unemployment rate, their trade balance, their labor productivity at 8:30 a.m. Friday morning, while the U.S. also releases both trade balance and the unemployment rate, along with non-farm payroll. Those are two of our big three right at the same time. There's two of our big three each month, so we're going to be less than half size ahead of that. Two more Fed members speaking, and the factory orders and consumer credit. So the big number is going into Friday here in the U.S., the trade balance and the unemployment number. We'll be looking at that as we do wrap up the year at this point. We are into the last month of the year. We'll see what that gives us and what that means from a trading perspective. We'll be here to help you out. The Trade Site Lab charts, as usual, brought to you by eSignal. Have a great trading week.